We're going to take, upwards of 20,000 breaths today. All I need you to do is take 60 good ones.
Really? I did not. Yeah, 'cause I mean, I've seen the stats like you have 30,000 plus thoughts a day. Didn't realize you have that many breaths a day.
Yeah, so if you start to extrapolate that 15 to 18 breaths per minute over the course of an entire day, that number gets up there pretty quick. And, we've all kind of forgotten the ability to, let our foot off the gas, let alone find the brake, right?
Guilty. Yeah.
Yeah, we all are. We all are. And 60 breaths, roughly 10 minutes. And like I said, if I can get someone to do that for 5 days a week, the changes are going to be profound, not just in what shows up for you on the golf course, but, at home in conversations with your partner, your
Hmm.
spouse, difficult conversations with a boss or having to give a
Yeah.
presentation or a pitch. Like, we all know what it feels like to get stressed. It doesn't just show up on the golf course.
Definitely. That's actually what I was going to say. Is it like better to do it in the morning? Is it midday if you have lunch break? I mean, I'm sure they benefit all of them, but is there one you guys generally see with most of your successful
Mhm.
people that are using it?
So if we focus in on the golfers, my recommended time is within a couple of hours before your tee time.
Makes sense.
So like Jordan will do it before he goes to the golf course. Keegan will do it in his car in the clubhouse parking lot before he goes out there. And the reason for that, and when we start to get around that 10-minute mark, the effects of that session starts to cascade out for a couple of hours, 2, 3
Mm.
hours. And that's if you do nothing about it. So when you look at what we do as golfers, we drive to the golf course, you know, hopefully we get a little bit of a warm up in, we get to the range, the putting green, whichever order you do it in, and then you get to the first tee. Like those are things that are just going to kind of tax our body a little bit and start to turn up that stress response as we get closer to go time.
Mm.
And so if we have that money in the bank to draw on, we've got the ability to tolerate that. And then when we're on the golf course, like there's ways to use your breathing. I'll let you in on one of the secrets is there's three things you can't do and breathe at the same time. You can't eat, you can't drink, and you can't talk. So here you and I have been having a conversation for the last 30 minutes or so, and all we've been doing is talking.
Hmm.
When you're standing on the tee box, the best thing that you can do is breathe because typically we're not eating, drinking, or talking when those that we're playing with are hitting their shots. So just breathe, whether it's 2 breaths or a minute's worth of breath. Like use that time to drop a little bit of a reminder to your nervous system that, hey, even though everything around me is telling me I need to be up for this shot,
Yeah.
you don't have to be.
That's really a good because I'm always looking for little things people can do during the round, and yeah, like you said, like on the tee box, that's a really easy one. And sometimes it's hard too, like when you're in a cart. Like I always joke, it's easier to get mad when you're walking versus in a cart because when you're walking, you have to like physically walk and you have some time between the shot. There's nothing worse than hitting a bad tee shot and then you're there in like 5 seconds in a golf cart. So it's like if we can do little things like that, even on the tee box or before the shots, and I feel like now, I've seen, different players do like the long drive guys. They seem to be breathing to pump up
Yeah.
their adrenaline versus guys that are trying to calm down. Like, explain kind of the difference between those two.
Yeah, go back to the metronome analogy, right? If
Hmm.
we breathe faster, it's going to send that signal to the nervous system that we need to activate a little bit. We've done a lot of work with Bryson. And so you look back when he was hitting it over the pond on 13 at Bay Hill,
Such a good shot.
right? He was actively breathing in a way that didn't get him out of control, but allowed his body to drop a little bit of adrenaline and cortisol into the system that may result in a few more miles an hour of clubhead speed. The difference between that and the stress state that we often get into is like that's intentional and that's under control. Because when Bryson was on the PGA Tour, not only was he one of the longest hitters, but he was also one of the best putters. He was making something like 90% of his putts inside 10 feet.
And he looked so
So,
mechanical doing it, but man, he was making everything.
right. In the physical state to hit it 340 in the air and the state where you need to be in to make 90% of your putts inside 10 feet are like
Hmm.
polar opposites.
Hmm.
So Bryson is a perfect example of using his breathing to be able to move his body into and out of the state that he wants to be in. And so it's for me helping players identify where are you right now and where do you want to be or where do you feel you need to be able to do whatever it is that you're going to do next to the best of your ability. And if you're a little bit behind the power curve and you
Hmm.
feel like you need to activate up a little bit, do it. But for the majority of us, we get stressed really quick
Yeah.
and we need to find the break a little bit.
Gosh, that's just, yeah. Bryson's a great example. Mark, when he was on the show last week, was talking about how, of all, Bryson's like the most technical person out there building 3D printing his own clubs and stuff. But he said that he told Mark one time one of the best ways he improved his swing was by just sitting down and visualizing it and just trying to imagine all the swing changes. So I got to give this guy so many props. I love Bryson, but the fact that he got into breathing, the mental side, the working out, the speed training, long drive, like this guy leaves no stone unturned. I
Right.
absolutely respect that. And that's a good example. Thanks for sharing that because I'm pretty sure every golfer remembers Bryson's epic shot there,
Yeah.
but we probably don't give his putting nearly enough credit. Because I remember when he won his first US Open, I remember seeing that stat too. It was like inside 10 feet, it was in.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Oh,
we've we've all read the books, right? And we've all worked with mental performance coaches and sports psychologists that are helping us, you know, instill thought processes and visualizations and the routines and the things that we know are there to support us to make, good decisions and play better golf. The analogy that I often use, and I think this might resonate with everyone, it's like when Apple or Google is going to drop the latest operating system for their devices, like we know that they're the latest and greatest. They're the most efficient, you
mm-hmm.
know, they're clean. But if you've got a phone that's maybe a couple years old and you've got a few too many apps open and too many photos on there, like it doesn't matter how good you try and visualize or try and commit to a process or your routine. If your body's not in a spot to be able to run that software, you're gonna get in your own way. And I think that's where a lot of us get to. Like our intentions are always good, but it's so dang hard to do it
Mm-hmm.
when it matters. And what we're seeing and what we've been able to really help a lot of players on tour and in college and even our weekenders start to do is again close that gap from playing in a state of stress to one where we have an opportunity to get into that zone or flow like state to allow the time that we put into the game actually show up.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I can't wait to learn more. I got some serious room to improve here. So this has been a lot of fun. And before getting into my last question, want to learn where people should follow you or your brand and figure out more about working together.
Yeah, we are neuropeakpro.com and Neuropeak Pro on all the socials. It's Neuropeak Pro. I'm not very active on social. You won't find me, so definitely head to the Neuropeak Pro accounts and the website, and you can see a little bit more of the Intel belt in action. But yeah, what I would really encourage, listeners and viewers to do is head to the App Store, Google Play, and download the Neuropeak Pro app. It takes 2 seconds to create an account. And there's a breathing fundamentals series. There's 3 4-minute videos that are going to walk you through the steps that I've helped some of the top athletes in the world go just to start to build those breathing fundamentals. And then if you want to, you can start to layer on some of that golf specific coaching. But even if you just go and check out those fundamentals and even just start to bring a higher level of awareness of your breathing into your everyday life, you're going to start to notice some pretty significant changes in not only your performance but how you're able to manage stress.
People are going to listen to this podcast and get better on the course and off the course. I love it. That's what we're looking for. There's so many similarities, like we talked about before we hit record. For the last question, I want to say, you've played obviously competitively for 20, 30 years. I know you've done it at PGA Tour level, which is amazing, by the way. I love that story at 19. We got a lot of golfers that are getting into the tournament side of things or maybe thinking about it. And I even have a lot of, senior players that have never played in a tournament and they're getting into them too. So what's some first time tournament tips you might give to amateurs that are finally ready to put themselves under a little bit of pressure?
I mean, and it doesn't even relate to breathing, but give yourself time. I often find still, even as much competitive golf that I've played, the time from when I put the car in park in the parking lot to my tee time, goes a lot faster than what I think I've allowed myself for. So, I think that's, giving ourselves the time to be able to do all the things that we need to do and not feel rushed, the things that we can do to help keep our body in the rhythm that we want it to be in becomes hugely helpful. And then obviously super biased. And even if you take 60 seconds, throw your hand on your belly and just count 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, you're going to be amazed at how relaxed you start to feel and how present you can be. We've all been told, Dr. Bob has told us 1,000 times you need to stay in the present. And I always went back to him and was like, I know that, but I don't know how and I can't do it. And for me, breathing was that one. So if I'm focusing in my breathing, I'm actually able to be exactly where my feet are. And I'm not thinking about the next shot and I'm not thinking about the putt I maybe should have made on the last green, but I'm able to be right where I am and, for the all intents and purposes, enjoy the game a heck of a lot more.
I love it. Be where your feet are. I think that's so key, and we appreciate you sharing so much and kind of opening my world up. I feel like there's a whole new component now to playing wicked smart golf. So thanks again for being on the show.
Michael, thank you. I really appreciate it.